Okay. Yay, you're here.
Ooh.
Aunt Mama, I'm so excited to have you on what I'm called Clean Conscious Network, where we're talking about my family's history in Houston County. So, Aunt Mava, will you please tell everyone who you are?
I'm Marva Franklin Anglin. I'm
Okay.
the great granddaughter of Tommy Daniel and Mary Eliza Daniel. And I'm the
Okay.
granddaughter of Etta Daniel Wiley.
Okay. And how are you and I related, ma'am?
We are related. Your dad is my brother, my youngest
Okay.
brother.
That's right. You are my sweet, sweet Aunt Marva. You are my sister's godmother. You're one of the sweetest ladies I ever met. Very generous, very giving. At Christmas, you would give us starter jackets, and I could count on having all the Bath and Body Works. In summertime, sometimes you would take us for a week
Yeah.
to Mahia. So my sister and I and my cousin Abria, we'd come cut up with the boys, my cousins Bobby and George, and get to hang out with my uncle Bobby back then. Some of my sweetest memories growing up are of times when I was with you. So
Okay.
thank you, Aunt Mava, for coming in to talk to me today. So
You're
people
welcome.
who've Thank you, dear. So anyone who's been following the series understands that this forum is my effort to try to capture our family's history to the best of my ability. And I have spoken with Uncle Sonny, Uncle Charles. I've spoken with Nanny, Barbara. I've spoken with my dad, Ronald. I've spoken with Aunt Ollie and Aunt Mitty.
Yeah.
Now I finally get to speak with you about what in my mind was truly a magical time. Now, I don't know that any of y'all ever called your childhood magical, but hearing about it in 2023 and understanding what you all had in the 40s and the 50s in rural Houston County, East Texas, for me, is it's almost idealistic, except for the white supremacy and the racism and the discrimination and
Yeah.
all of that, but
Yes.
you all had a lot of positive. You had a lot positive going on for you back there in that community, Aunt Mava. And so
Yes.
I usually start this by asking everyone, uh, where were you born? Describe to me the conditions that you were born into, ma'am.
I was born in Houston County, Texas, Tadma community, and uh, I was born with two siblings. I had a older brother, Carl, and my older sister was Barbara.
Yes.
So we grew up in Tadma community in out from Kennard and Ratcliffe, Houston
Okay.
County.
So, about what year are you born, ma'am? You don't have to give me your exact date of birth, if you don't want to,
Well,
but
I don't
around
mind.
what time?
I don't
Okay,
mind. I
yeah.
was
So,
born
when are
in May 16th, 1943.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. So,
Houston County, Texas.
in my mind, this is really kind of before the civil rights movement launches, although
It
there is
was.
work being done, to uh, I was going to say restore, but really to implement equal rights for all people in America. That the work was being done at that time, but you're born before the marches. You are
Yes,
born in what is effectively the Jim Crow South.
right.
And so, ma'am, tell me, were you born at home or were you born in a hospital?
No, I was born at home.
Okay.
Uh, at that time, uh, I doubt if we had a car or way to go to a hospital. And
Right.
the lady that delivered me was there in the community. So they got her and brought her to our house. And I
What
was
is her name?
Lula Patton, I think is
Yes,
her name.
ma'am.
Lula
Yes,
Patton.
ma'am. Miss Lula Patton comes up in all these podcasts. You
Yes,
know,
yes.
she is a pillar of the community. Really,
Right.
she must have delivered all the babies.
I
And what
guess
would
she
you
did.
call her? Was she a what you would call a midwife, or was she a nurse
She
or a
was a
doula?
midwife.
Or
She was a
okay,
midwife. Yes.
she's a midwife. Okay,
Right.
and Aunt Mava, the home that you were born into, where is it geographically located? My understanding is that Creth is kind of
Right.
where, right? So you
The
were born
Crest
across the creek,
community. Yes,
right?
that's
Yes, ma'am.
across the creek from Tadman.
Wow.
Well, that's the way everybody referred to it, as cross
Well,
the creek.
yeah. Listen, A Mava, Uncle Sonny he started talking about a Creth. I was like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of Creth in my
Crest
whole life.
community.
Crest
Yes.
Community. You know,
Yeah.
it was like I thought across the creek was the address. So if I was right, it'd be like 111 across the creek, Texas.
Yeah.
You know, but that place, I guess, well, and really the postal code is probably Crockett, right?
All right, it
Or
is. It's
yeah, but
yeah. It we get our mail from Crockett.
right, right.
Yes.
And so you are born into this community in your home. Now your home is kind of in the back. And so my understanding is that there's a road and there's a walnut tree. And maybe do Tom and Ya live at the walnut tree?
No,
And
that's where
oh,
Mama and Daddy live, at the walnut
okay.
tree. Tom and Yah
Okay.
were in front. They are close to
Okay.
the road.
Okay, Tom and
Yes.
Ya in the front, the walnut tree is in the back, and that's where Daddy Rip built the home.
Right, and Mama. That's where they
Okay,
live.
and
They have a
yes,
house back there.
okay. I want to clear something up because I'm not sure that I called Mary Eliza Ya in this podcast before. But my
Yes.
understanding is that that was her like her nickname or the name that her children called her is
Yes.
Ya.
I imagine they tried to say Mary Eliza, and it
Uh-huh.
ended up as Mary Yai, Yiza.
Okay.
I imagine
Yes,
that's what happened.
yes.
Because, a
Well,
lot of time kids can't pronounce, they don't have all the dictions together to pronounce the
well,
word correctly.
listen, you're probably right, Aunt Mava. I think you're 100% right about that. But I will say, on my husband's side of the family, the grandmother is called Yami. Yami.
Oh,
And Yami, it is an African language, maybe Swahili. It means grandmother.
oh, okay.
And so I didn't know if that was some kind of, cool like remnant from enslaved Africans who
Slavery.
brought that
Yeah.
name. But,
I,
you're right. It could be Mary Eliza,
yeah.
truncated to Yah, which makes
Uh-huh.
sense. I still don't know where Rip and Dut came from. I think they said Rip was always ripping and running. Yeah, Dut, like where Dut is nowhere in Katie Lucille Henderson. Nowhere.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
you
I
know,
never know.
Daddy got the nickname from Rip Van Weasel. He was the guy that slept so. He would fall asleep.
Oh,
You see him. He was a book character. and and
Wow.
so
I had no
they started
idea.
calling Daddy that because when I think when he was younger and he wasn't working, he was somewhere asleep, you know.
Hey,
So
Marva. Wow. Let me
and
tell you something. One of my fondest childhood memories, I'm telling you. So, anybody who's been following the series knows that I am from a deeply religious family. I grew up in the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, and directly
right,
across the dirt road from the home that I knew that my grandparents lived in was the CME Church, Bethel CME
right,
Church.
right,
And Daddy Rip was the steward of the church, and he would go down and unlock church every Sunday, and he would ring the
yes,
bell, for Sunday
right,
school and let the community know that the church is open.
yes,
And we would go down to Sunday school, and Daddy Rip was around, and then we'd have church, and he would sit on the front row, Marva.
yeah.
And then when the preacher got up to preach, he would put his arm up on the pew, he would put his leg up on the pew and fall asleep on the front row, on the front
Yeah,
row of the church. So
he did.
I had no idea that his naps were legendary. You
Yeah,
know, his naps
yeah,
go down in history. It's literally named for a nap.
yeah,
It's, my
yeah,
goodness gracious. I took
yeah.
a mighty nap when I was young too, so at least now I know I got it honest.
Yeah.
Um, okay,
Oh,
that is something I didn't know
so
that.
Mama's nickname came from flour. You know, they used to
Oh,
back in the day. Blacks didn't have cars, anything but wagons. You know, so
yes, ma'am.
back in the day they had what we call peddlers, and the
Huh.
peddlers would come around, and the flour the peddler had was Dut. The name of it was Dut. So
Aunt
that's
Marva,
how
I've
Mama got
never
her
heard
nickname,
this.
from
Now I
a
have to look up a Dut flower.
bag of flour. Yeah,
I had no idea. I had no
yes.
idea.
Now
So, we're
I don't. If I asked her who gave her the nickname, I don't remember who gave her the nickname, but I do remember asking her, "How did you get the name Dut? You know, what did it mean?" And she told me, uh, when she was young, peddlers would come around, and he had flour, a bag of flour was, and the name on it was Dut. So somebody
like an
started
actual, like
calling it.
flour. So, like flour that you
You
make
cook with,
bread with?
yes, that you cook with, yes, yes,
Oh,
uh
huh.
huh,
Well, for people who don't know, I mean, that is an interesting name. Flower is white, and Mama Dood is pretty fair skinned. And so is her
yeah.
mom and her
Now I
sister.
don't
That I
know
mean,
how.
that's
Yeah, but
yeah. I don't know what that was about, but
no, I don't either.
okay. Okay. Well, since we're on the subject of my grandparents, your parents,
Yes.
Carl Lester and Katie Lucille, I think I want to pause and let you tell us just what you know about Katie Lucille and even her siblings and her mother.
Um. Well, right off, uh, I know there were four of them in a family. Mama had an older brother, which was George Henderson, and a older sister. Her name was Addie Henderson, and then uh, it was like my grandmother, who was Augusta Stewart Henderson.
And I
She
learned
had,
she's born Josephine. Josephine
yes,
Augusta. Right.
Augusta, yes.
Okay.
And most people just call her Augusta, you know.
Augusta.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And after the two, Uncle Bubba and Aunt Sis, then it was Mama and Aunt Dimple. But there
Okay.
was a pause between Aunt Sis and Mama. So it's like Big Mama had two sets of kids
The older kids
because
and the
Uncle
younger
Bubba,
kids.
hi,
The
un-
older kids and the younger kids.
yes, Uncle Bubba and
Okay.
Aunt Sis were close in age. And
Okay.
then it was about 10 years or more between Aunt Sis's age and Mama's age.
Okay.
So she had Mama, and then 2 or 3 years later, she had Aunt Dimple, and her name was
Okay.
Mary Lena.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, and so my understanding is that Mama Duck went to high school, and
yes,
she finished high school and wanted to
yes,
go on to get some post high school education, but it was expensive.
right. And
And
no father. Her
right.
father had moved to well, at when Mama went to, she had to leave Tadma and go to Crockett in order to get a high school education. So she moved with one of Big Mama's, Augusta Henderson's, brothers and wife. That's who she stayed with in Crockett in order to go to school and get her to finish high school.
So I didn't realize that. I'm so glad that you brought that up. Now she is not descended from Tom and Yah,
No,
but she grows up in Houston County, kind of right there in the Tadmo community, and in the
right.
county seat, Crockett.
Yes.
And I learned that she grew up quite poor. Now everybody was poor,
Yeah.
but she was poorer than most because her
Yeah.
dad was
Right.
gone. Her mom was unskilled,
Right.
essentially a single mom with two young daughters. I heard that they had to go fishing to catch their dinner sometimes.
Yes. Well, back then, a lot of people did. You know, when they
Right,
wanted, especially meat,
right,
they fished a lot in
right,
order to supply food.
right.
Yes.
Well, I also heard that there were some like apartments or like temporary housing that was
Yes.
set up in the Tadmo community,
Yes.
and Gusta and Dimple and Dut
Yes.
lived in some of that temporary housing that was
Right.
set up, I think, by Oscar Wiley Sr.
Right. Yes. By
Okay,
Grandma Etta Wiley, Etta Daniel Wiley. Her
right,
husband was the one that built them,
right.
and it
Okay,
was something like apartment.
okay. So let's talk more about Mama Dut when she's in Crockett. Now, I've asked a few people this. I've heard, and maybe I had a dream, maybe I made it up, a Mava, I don't know. But I heard that in Prohibition, our family was running bootleg liquor in Houston County. Had you ever heard anything like that?
No, I can't. No, I can't think
See,
of
and I
that.
don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I must have heard it from Mama Dut, and I probably need to let it
What?
go. But what I heard was, she was with them and they were always wanting to go somewhere, like
Uh
somewhere.
huh.
They wanted to go out, and Mama did not want to go with them,
Yeah.
because, sometimes there was trouble.
Yes.
And she was a more conservative person. She was a good girl. She
Right.
just did not want to be out,
Yes.
running liquor or even drinking liquor or whatever.
Right.
And so I heard that she went to Crockett but she lived there for a time and she couldn't wait to get back to the small town, which is funny because a lot of people think Crockett is a small town, but she was
Right.
from she was from Tadmore, and that the
Yeah.
big city life for Crockett was
Yeah.
almost too much for her.
Yeah.
And so that is something that I had heard, but maybe I heard that wrong.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
So
I can't recall anything about that.
okay, well, is there anything else about Mama Dut that comes up for you, that shows up for you? I mean, I have described her obviously as a very kind woman, very sweet and giving and loving, great mother.
Right.
She worked in these school cafeterias. Uncle Sonny said that she was quite smart, and
She
that she
was.
understood Latin root words.
Yes.
Right. I don't know that she spoke another language or anything, but
She
she
did.
did well in school.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And they had, at that time, when she went to Crockett, they taught Latin in school. So yes, she
Okay.
did know about it. Yes.
Okay. Yes, I heard
Uh-huh.
that she understood language, that she was an excellent speller, and
Right.
yeah, Uncle Sonny says that
She
she,
was
she
very
knew some
smart.
Latin. Okay.
And I know uh after Daddy had gone to the service, uh Grandma Etta wanted Mama to go to college too, because she said she was so smart, and that she would be able to go to college and get an education. But Mama had
Wow.
started having children at that
Yes.
time, so she didn't want to leave her kids, to go. And she
Wow.
did say, had she known uh, how to, well, had she known what she knew later on in life, she would have gone to college, because she would have gone there in Crockett. At that time, there was a Baptist college in Crockett, and the name was Mary Allen College.
Yes.
And
Yes.
she say, had she known, what she knew later on in life, she would have stayed in Crockett and worked. At that time, you were doing maid work.
Right. Right.
But she said she could have worked and gone to college, but that she at the time she didn't understand it, so she just went back home.
Well, let me tell you what's showing up for me in my thoughts. Around that, we're talking about the early 1930s, 1934. Mama Dut's about 17 years old. I think she's
Mm,
born in 1917.
uh-huh.
And this is a time when women can barely vote,
Yeah,
and
that's
black people
true.
for sure are catching hell at the polls.
Yes.
I found out that Mama Doot and Daddy Rip did vote before the Voting Rights Act. They paid the poll tax,
Yeah, they
and
paid.
they went and voted. That makes me proud.
Yes.
But like it was a different time, and for some people, the idea of women getting an education was taboo.
Yes,
Some communities did not value educating their women,
that's true.
and we didn't have a lot. Okay, so our family could have saved our
Exactly.
money and gone straight
Yes.
to work, but our family understood the value of education, and it keeps coming back to Mama Etta, Grandma Etta.
Yes.
That woman sent her daughters and wanted to send her daughter-in-law to college.
Yes.
It's almost like it was an imperative for her. It was very important for her that her
Right.
children were educated.
Right.
And
Right.
I just think that's a beautiful thing. And that
And
Daddy Rip helped to fund the education of some
yes.
of the women in the family. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yes. And Daddy also believed like Grandmother. He believed in education. And he was the one, he pushed Grandmother too, to push for Aunt Mitty and Aunt Ollie and Uncle Junior to go to college. But he really wanted his sisters with an education. So when he went to service, uh, at that time, Grandmother's husband had passed also. So Daddy felt responsible to support Grandmother and his sisters. So